If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, we all do a little, we change a lot.
I think it's just vapor.
Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
There's really not even that much nicotine in them, right?
One vape pod has as much nicotine as one pack of cigarettes.
My kid
knows it's dangerous.
5.4 million American kids vape, and most think it's harmless. Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org. That's talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. The home of Kansas City Royals baseball. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America. It's time for The Finish Line with Mike Melby on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Start your engine!
Welcome into The Finish Line. I'm Mike Melby. Rebecca Pearson to my right, and Harrison Arns behind the board. Harrison, thank you very much for helping us scramble. Tom and I earlier today with Husker Rewind and our issues with the magical 5 o'clock hour spot blocks that disappear every week. So, in studio tonight, I have got a couple of guys that local race fans will know very well, Nick Bryan and Mike Boston. And month and a half or 2.5 months ago or so, Speedway Motors said, hey guys, we're going to Racing World, we're going to shut down EMI, Eagle Chassis. Sorry, it's going to go away. And Mike Boston was an employee at EMI and said, how much is that? How much is that? And Mike Boston is now the new owner of Eagle Chassis. It's now Eagle Motorsports LLC, not EMI. So are you going to go still by EMI just because that's how everybody knows it?
No, excuse me. I'll probably just go with Eagle Motorsports. We have a logo very similar. It's going to be a little bit different, but went with the LLC. And I say we're going to start over basically with T-shirts, and but it'll be Eagle Motorsports.
Nice. Nick Bryan also joining me. Nick, I know you're involved with Mike on a weekly basis, helping him out at the track and helping with Eagle as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been an ongoing process. The last couple of years, I took racing for myself and put it on the sideline, and knew that Mike could use a hand. So, we've always been friends and just try to help out when I can.
Cool. So let's, before we get again, we're going to spend kind of the entire second segment. I want to talk to you guys about Eagle Chassis and walk us through what happened. How did it happen? And I know it wasn't you saying, hey, how much is this? But it was the great relationship that you have with the Smith family that owns Speedway Motors. And that's why you have part of the stuff that was there. Brian Cheney wound up with some other stuff. He's moved on as well and gone down to Missouri, I believe.
Yeah, that's
So to do a little bit of stuff down there. But this week in racing, run through a couple of things before we get to the victory lane. Earlier in the week, Hunter Schoenberg and Vermeer Motorsports parted ways. That was kind of a surprise to me. Hunter had some success. He was sitting third in points with the All-Stars. On Wednesday, the eve of Ohio Sprint Speed Week, you're out, Hunter. And then lo and behold, I almost wondered when I first heard it if Buddy Kofoid would wind up in the car, and lo and behold, he does. Kofoid replaced him. He runs 6th on Friday with the All-Stars, 5th on Saturday. We failed to mention this last week because we had too much stuff going on. My fault. The 2023 class of the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame was inducted last weekend in Knoxville. And Lincoln-born Joey Saldana, and I know, Mike, you spent a couple of nights racing against Joey over the years, winds up in the Hall of Fame. How cool is it, and what knowledge did you have, and what was your relationship with Joey Saldana like?
Not excuse me, a whole lot of personal. I mean, I knew friends that knew him, so I got to meet him, that way. Humble, great guy, a great family man, taking his kids now to that level where he was, and it kind of like his dad did with him. But very humble man, and that obviously an awesome, racer.
Absolutely was. It was announced on Friday that the 72nd running of the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring will be March 16th, 2024. And as always, the days leading up to the great race are going to feature multiple races and a new series on track beginning March 13th as well. Rebecca, I know your input with Mobil 1, a global marketing director for the motorsports program for as long as you were. This is exciting news. I know from everybody that you've always been associated with.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, Sebring is one of the classics. If you are a pavement racer, I'm going to say, just because of the cars that are there. So you have two classes, basically prototypes, and then you have GTs, right? So, and then all the OEMs are developing their next generation, passenger cars down there, plus all their race cars. So you've got Corvette, Porsche, Lamborghini, whoever, anybody and everybody is down there developing their new cars. And so it's just a really fun race to watch from a development standpoint. But what's really cool is the fan experience. So this is what reminds me of dirt track racing, and why I thought, it'd be worth mentioning to people if they haven't done a road trip down to the 12 Hours of Sebring. Happens to be sponsored by Mobil 1 for 2 decades almost, closely, but they have an infield where you can camp out and you can watch the races from there. Of course, it's a night race, right? It's 12 hours. So you're just basically able to camp out in the infield and enjoy that experience of hanging out with all your fellow buddies. And it's like $100 for 4 days. It's really worth it.
So we're going to do a live remote from down there?
Yeah, I think that's what we should do.
Okay.
Should we ask the boss?
Yeah, I think we probably should. Let's see if we can get that cleared. Before we go any further, I want to jump into Victory Lane. I'm going to do this on the air because it's kind of fun. It's live radio, and I do weird things. Do we have 100% okay on this side? And
yep.
We have 100% okay on this side.
Sure.
So I would like to do the very first Victory Lane, which is sponsored by Eagle Motorsports LLC. Eagle Chassis is going to sponsor the Victory Lane segment here on 93.7 The Ticket on the finish line. And I believe Mike Boston's going to be driving a car with a ticket logo up on the wing as well.
Woo-hoo.
It's going to be kind of cool out at Eagle. So very happy to have you on board. Nick, I know you're helping him with the car and all that type of stuff. So thank you guys very, very much. We hope to make sure that the racing community, not only locally, but nationally understands, man, Eagle is not gone anywhere. They just took a break. I'm taking a week off. It's a couple of months, but still, you're back at it. You've been probably working harder since then than you did when you were building cars, and that you will when you get to the point of building cars and no longer moving. So big thanks, Mike and Rebecca.
Oh, and I love having the ticket, right? We're coming out swinging, right? We're coming out with Mike Boston. This is great. So we're super excited to be with you.
Absolutely. Running through Victory Lane, NASCAR Cup Series today, Martin Truex Jr. wins at Sonoma. Yesterday, Eric Almirola took home the win. Kyle Larson dominates. He leads 53 of 79 laps, but he clips a tire barrier with 7 to go, going through the big sweeping hairpin, and doesn't work out to his benefit. He winds up third. Truck Series was dark. High Limit Series at Eagle last Tuesday was insane. Kyle Larson, Rico Abreu put on a battle for the ages. I'd never heard estimates from Roger Hayden, but I am making an educated guess from my 10 years there and knowing how big the crowds were, the actual numbers. I'm guessing we were in the 9,000 to 9,500 range. It may have been a touch more. Awesome. Absolutely incredible. I had an opportunity before the races. Life happens sometimes and you don't get someplace soon enough. I had 15 minutes and I had an audio recorder, and we'll do this in just a minute. As soon as we finish up with Victory Lane, Harrison's got the interviews, but I had 15 minutes. I ran through the pits. I got a quick interview with Brian Brown, Kyle Larson, Rico Abreu, and Brent Marks. So we'll play those for you in just a couple of minutes. But Larson won a thriller, 3 in a row for him. High Limit is off until July 25th at Grandview Speedway. All-Stars at Attica on Friday night. Zeb Wise took home the win, a last lap pass of Tyler Courtney, and then a whale of a battle between Danny Dietrich and Cap Henry. Dietrich passes Henry in the last 20 feet to take home the win at Fremont Speedway for the All-Stars last night. They are in the midst of Ohio Sprint Week, and it is crazy. I think they're racing at Wayne County tonight, are the All-Stars for the Ohio Sprint Speed Week. World of Outlaw Sprints were at Knoxville. Friday night, Brian Brown won, and on Saturday, David Gravel picked up the win, but something we're going to talk about with you guys as soon as we get done with the interviews. That wreck with Carson Macedo last night was terrifying. Luckily, he walked out of the hospital under his own power this morning. Sounds like he's going to be okay. Tweeted out that he can't wait to get back into a race car. World of Outlaw late models and Lucas Oil late models dark. And let's see, everybody else rained out essentially. One other note, though, on Saturday night up in Hartford, Carson McCarl took home the win with the Malvern Bank 360 Series. Their next race is going to be Monday the 12th, tomorrow, up at Park J in Sioux City. So as I mentioned, I was at the High Limit Series on Tuesday at Eagle and had a quick second, literally, to ask one or two questions of Brownie, Kyle Larson, Rico Abreu, and of Brent Marks. Tried to have a little bit of fun as well, and we'll see what you guys think of them. For the finish line, I'm Mike Belby, now joined by the driver of one of my favorite cars, the Casey's FVP number 21, Brian Brown. How many times have you won the Knoxville track title?
Oh, a few. I think we're up to 5 or 6 times. So yeah, it's Knoxville's a awesome place, and it's been very good to us over the years. So fortunately too, they have a lot of big races there. So if you're going to be good, you might as well be good there.
Exactly. The High Limit Series has been a phenomenal success so far. You're one of the reasons why. You're up front almost every night, and then when you're not, like a couple of weeks ago, you drive through the field. What's the difference in how you're running with these guys?
No, really, it's the same pretty much. I mean, every time you unload and you get to the track, you want to try to beat everybody that's there, whether it's a high limit race, a World of Outlaw race, or an all-star race. So, we've stumbled on little things that make our car a little bit better that we've been able to apply and make my job a little bit easier. But yeah, with these midweek races, that for good money, we really enjoy them. A lot of good support from this area, the Durst family, which has been involved with racing for a long, long time, putting a lot of good money up, and huge crowd, and looking forward to a good night of racing.
We are as well. One last quick question for you. What's your favorite Halloween costume you've ever worn?
Well, really from when I was a kid, it didn't matter if it was career day, Halloween, just because it was a Tuesday. I always dressed up as a race car driver. So to me, it's got to be a race car driver.
Perfect. Thanks for your time. Good luck tonight.
I appreciate it.
Now joined by one of the best drivers on the planet, Kyle Larson. This is your series. This is one of your favorite tracks. And the last time you were here, it was amazing. Talk about your feelings going into tonight.
Just really excited to get back to Eagle. They haven't ran 410 wing sprint cars here in a long time. So I think all of us are excited to be out here racing. The crowd's been anticipating this event for a long time. It's packed already. So, it should be a good night.
Going to be a fantastic night. One last question. What's your favorite Halloween candy?
I don't know. I'm not like a huge candy guy. I guess just a Reese's peanut butter cup or something.
Sounds good to me. Thanks for your time. Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
Back once again, this time joined by Rico Abreu. Rico, you have had some unbelievable success this year, teaming up with Ricky Warner. What is the secret?
Just consistency, really. It's the same. We're getting down to having the same feel every night with our car, attitude and mechanical wise. So it's been a lot of fun racing with some really, really smart people, and they got my car really comfortable for me.
I know you've got a little bit of a connection to Lincoln as well. Tell me about that.
Yeah. My fiance Megan has a lot of family here, so it's cool to get to race in front of her hometown crowd, and and racing against Big Don tonight too. So that'll be fun.
One last question. What's your favorite vegetable?
Probably carrots, to be honest.
I like it. Thanks for your time. Good luck tonight. Joined by Brent Marks. You won a lot of money last year, more than anybody else that drove a wing sprint car. Do you like just going wherever you need to go, want to go, feel like going, or do you ever want to jump back in and run with the Outlaws or the All-Stars?
No, I'm really happy with what we're doing and the schedule that we dictate every single week. So it's it's a lot of fun for us, and whenever the time comes that we need a small break, we're able to take it without without all the commitments that it would require to run a series. So we're happy with what we're doing and picking and choosing. And, it looks like rain one weekend, we can decide to go somewhere else and not having to be forced to go somewhere because of that. So really enjoy what we do.
Midweek shows have been fantastic. I've been watching them on Flow. I spent a lot of time at this racetrack. You ever been here before?
I raced here once back in 2017 with the World of Outlaws, so I don't really remember it much, but it looks like it's going to be fun tonight. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Greatly appreciate your time. Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
As you could tell, they were getting ready for a motor heat there, and that's what I was up against. And it was one of those where once motor heat starts, Mike, Nick, I know you guys know this, that's game on. That's now it's time for me to put my helmet on, for me to do my job. And so I was super appreciative of those guys. Larson was literally walking to his car. And so I'm like, give me 5 seconds. He was so gracious to be able to do it. So a lot of fun there. I want to go back to the wreck, though, at Knoxville last night. Insane. We've seen some nasty ones. There was one at Eagle. I believe it was Terry Holloman, where he clipped the entrance to 3, where the opening is for the push trucks to go back into the pits. The front end of his car was at the bottom of 4. The motor and the rest of the car was at the bottom of 3, 150 feet away. You've been in some unbelievable wrecks yourself. I know they're not fun to remember, but do you want to mind sharing what some of the more nasty tumbles that you've taken have been?
Excuse me, more of the dirt bike stuff. The car stuff is actually not as bad other than the pocketbook. So, but we've had a few of them. I mean, anybody that's going to be involved in it, every time you climb in the car, you take that chance knowing that, you could be a winner or you could go home with nothing. So every single person out there, realizes that. And I mean, you take that in consideration. So I've been fortunate enough. I really, got banged up a little bit, but not hurt or broken bones. And very fortunate.
I'm Mike Belby. This is The Finish Line. That is Rebecca Pearson, Mike Boston, the new owner of Eagle Chassis, joining us, as well as Nick Bryan. Nick, I know you've tooled around a track quite a few times as well. Any really nasty wrecks that you've had?
No, like Mike said, being in the car with a cage and stuff like that, we've taken a couple of spills and drills and spills here at Eagle and stuff, but nothing that's kept me out of the seat more than a couple of weeks or something like that. So
can you guys talk about safety and how that's evolved over the years? Because, it is so much better how in the dirt track cars and sprint cars, especially what's happened over the years.
I think the biggest plus to the sport is when they came out with the Butler built seats, and I mean the full containment seats. And it used to be, we used to have a local builder by the name of Randy Hunt that built a ton of dirt track stuff for Opperman, Wolfgang, and it was a company right here in Lincoln that got started. So everybody used those types of seats. NASCAR helped evolve a lot of that safety stuff and incorporated it into the dirt track stuff. And and I can attest to it. It's helped a lot in the crashes that I've had, containing your head from side to side. The Han stuff now is also, a very good product to put on yourself or whatever. Myself, I don't use one, but there are just some stuff that you get used to a certain thing and you want to fight it more than you want to use it. So and I know Kinzer was like that a lot with head restraint stuff. So but myself, I think the seat is a big deal. Just a lot of the quality of the car being put together, the safety devices, unfortunately with Jason Johnson, now they've implemented the outlaw bars, which are mandatory. So it's taken some wider openings of the cages that weren't quite as strong and, shorten them up and, which has definitely helped a tremendous amount.
Well, and that's what I want to get into a little bit more next segment, because the next segment, I want to focus on Eagle Chassis and on some of these safety features and the technical side of a car frame. Because, bottom line, you've got a 1,425 pound car with, in the World of Outlaws case, 900 horsepower. That makes no sense. There's no reason that car should stay on the track. It should not be airborne just from literally flooring it. But it does stay on the ground. I want to talk to you guys about that, about Eagle Chassis, how you brought it back, how EMI ended, and Eagle Motorsports LLC started. We're going to do that when we come back on The Finish Line right here on 93.7 The Ticket.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym owners. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
The Drive with AD and Raph.
I kept hearing people say, it's hard to recruit to Nebraska. Man, get the hell out of here with that. You don't think it's not hard to recruit in Iowa? It's not hard to recruit in Wisconsin? So when I hear people say it's hard to recruit to Nebraska, then don't coach at Nebraska.
If you put Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and Lincoln, Nebraska together, I'd choose Lincoln, Nebraska. I know it's closer to the South, but if you look at the city of Tuscaloosa, I would choose Lincoln, Nebraska.
Weekdays from 8 to 10 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Veterans. Do you know what local, state, and federal benefits and services you're eligible to receive? Do you want help navigating the application or appeals process? Speak to your county veteran service officer or the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs State Service Office to see what's available to you and your family. You've served our country, now let us serve you. Visit veterans.nebraska.gov today. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Getting experience to jumpstart a meaningful career can be difficult, and education can cost a fortune. Luckily, AmeriCorps can be the solution. With AmeriCorps, you'll earn a stipend and education award while helping people. Plus, you'll gain professional skills and make connections to help you build your career. If you're ready to start a career you can be proud of, visit serve.nebraska.gov/service to find a program for you. Paid for by Serve Nebraska, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station. Serve Nebraska believes that volunteers are part of what makes Nebraska great. Each year, the Step Forward Awards honors volunteers from across the state who serve their communities in outstanding ways. We hope you'll join us this year at the Step Forward Awards luncheon on October 27th in Omaha. Help us thank volunteers with a celebration to remember. To register, visit serve.nebraska.gov and click Register Now. We hope to see you there. Paid for by Serve Nebraska, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is "My job is people, everyone is my business." But unfortunately, I would lose my own brother, Corporal Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Our lives only have so much time. But if you smoke, you have less. Your life could be 10 years shorter. And the time you do have is often filled with health problems. Shortness of breath, asthma, COPD, and cancer. But the minute you quit, your body starts healing.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-84-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
I always had to be so good, no one could ignore me. Carve my path with data and drive. But some people only see who I am on paper. The paper ceiling, the limitations from degree screens to stereotypes that are holding back over 70 million stars. Workers skilled through alternative routes rather than a bachelor's degree. It's time for skills to speak for themselves. Find resources for breaking through barriers at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Back to the finish line with Mike Melby on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to the finish line. I'm Mike Melby. Harrison Arns behind the board tonight. Rebecca Pearson to my right. The new owner of Eagle Chassis, Mike Boston, sitting across, and Nick Bryan as well. Pilots a sprint car whenever he kind of feels like it these days. Puts family first and helps Mike out as well. Happy to announce tonight that Eagle Motorsports LLC is going to sponsor Victory Lane, the segment here on the finish line on 93.7 The Ticket. And I was able to share last week that Eagle Chassis is alive and well, just in a little bit different format. So, Mike, I know you were with him EMI for about 2.5 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
With Speedway Motors. And then walk me through kind of what happened. This was out of the blue. Nobody really expected EMI to close.
Yeah, it was one day we were working and Dave Wallace, which is one of the head guys at Speedway himself, and he was overseeing EMI, called me and said, hey, after work, need you and Brian to come into my office, which was at the main warehouse, and said, okay. So we no more and walked in the door, Brian and I, and he says, effective, tomorrow morning at 8:00, operations at EMI are, done. And it, after Brian and I kind of caught our wits with one another, and there was no indication. It's like, okay. And from there, it was more of the game plan moving forward. Brian and I were both fortunate. We were both car builders, and there was a lot of loose ends to get cleaned up. And Brian and I were fortunate. We got to continue on for a month more, working on cars, loose ends, and then also they paid us for another month of pay or whatever. So which they didn't have to. That's for sure.
So then things are closed. You guys have wrapped up loose ends for them. And then if I remember what you were talking about on Friday, Carson Smith walks up and says, "Hey, how would you like some equipment?"
Yeah, that was another big surprise. I mean, I'm at the end of my racing career, and I thought I was getting closer to retirement or whatever. So I thought I was going to retire at EMI or whatever, because it was a dream job at fabricator, building cars, doing what you love. And then having the carpet kind of pulled out from under you. So anyway, it was a great gesture on speedways, and obviously also it's going to be a bonus or plus for them for our severance package. We got a bunch of equipment, welders, mill, lathe, benders, and some material to get started. And he said, here's part of your severance package, for $1. So, how can you say no? So, and
I'll take two.
Yeah. And it was, very great gesture as far as, not just Carson, but the Smiths in general. Everybody was mad, upset. I mean, and I understand the position that they were in. It's all about, hey, we have to make money first and foremost, and we're just not doing a very good job of that. And with you and Brian here as fabricators, we can continue to sell our pieces and parts that we machine and make and supply to you guys as racers, and you guys can continue on making the chassis and the repairs, because without you guys doing that, we're nobody also. So it's unfortunate that or maybe I should say fortunate, Brian is went down through a different avenue or whatever, still doing the SNA chassis, but he's going to be in Odessa, Missouri, and I wish him the best of luck also.
Yeah, and so you're going to be based here in Lincoln, down in kind of Southwest Lincoln, and you got the shop. I asked for a tour of the shop last week, Rebecca, and he goes, "Well, right now I simply have a path through it." So you've been moving a ton of equipment, and I know the guest that we had on last week, Tyler Perry, is a guy that you worked with for a long time at EMI, and was a big part of helping you get the stuff and the equipment out and making sure inventory is and all that type of stuff were taken care of. How's the relationship with Tyler and all that? How did that go? It seemed like it went pretty smooth.
Oh, it's great. Tyler's a great guy. And actually I was fixing
Trevor.
Trevor's car from his incident at Beatrice, and not really even officially open. So but I wanted to get them out there as soon as I can. And, Trevor kind of got wounded a little bit. So he took a couple weeks off. So it worked out great. So, but to kind of go back to the pathway or whatever, I needed a place to put my sprint car stuff. I mean, I got 3 cars. I've got, a dozen motorcycles. I've got a big trailer, and never really had a great place to put it. So my girlfriend and I, leased 2,400 square foot building. Figured, man, this is going to be awesome. It's going to be my play shop. It's going to be everything we need. I mean, we pull my trailer and my truck and my cars and my bikes, and still had room. And then all this happened, and now my trailer and truck are outside, and I don't have hardly enough room for another piece of tubing, and that I still don't have all the stuff in. So that's where Nick has came in and been great. My girlfriend, Amber, without all the support, I can't do this all alone or whatever. So without their help, I wouldn't be where I'm at, nor would I have even thought about, taking this challenge. So
we were talking about safety stuff, and you mentioned Jason Johnson and the wreck that took his life, and the gaps in the car and what they do. I know what you're talking about. I don't think a lot of other people do. Would you elaborate a little bit on that and some of the safety features then, and how they intertwine with Eagle Chassis?
Well, the situation with Jason is a lot of the cages, they're mandated on the thickness and the diameters, and Knoxville is one of the best in the world or whatever as far as doing the tech stuff on there. Last year, not just Eagle Motorsports, they sonic test the thickness in the walls to make sure the consistency is there, and the manufacturers have, there's some variance in it, and which it's still within specifications of, say, Plymouth or Beitler, but some of those, I guess, specifications were getting down on the lower side. So instead of being a 83 wall, they were getting down to, say, 80,000. So 3,000s don't seem like a whole big, difference, but where do you stop? So, they kind of, got everybody together, had a meeting, and so there's a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't look, like with Jason Johnson's, they mandated what they call an outlaw bar. It was a deal between the cage, like where the driver would get in the car in and out, and it was probably 24 inches that was unsupported by a tube. So now they've mandated where it can be like 19 inches. So they shortened that up where it strengthened the cage. So if you did get up on top of something, say an Armco or another car, it's going to add to the safety and the rigidity of that car. And, that's what it's about, is making sure everybody gets to go home at the end of the night.
Well, and with the wreck last night with Carson Macedo, the car catches on fire, and that's ultimately the biggest problem with that wreck last night. The World of Outlaws mandated at the beginning of this year, you have to have a fire suppression system on the car. Well, what happens when the fire suppression system, due to the impact of the race, goes flying? And that's what happened last night, because I was stunned watching it live. I'm going, okay, well, I saw the fire erupt, and then they moved the camera, and you didn't get a chance to watch anymore. But the way Johnny was talking, being around racing, you knew what was up. Nick, you probably knew what was up. I knew what was going on. I was like, okay, this is not good. And the amount of time that went by, and the one thing I kept thinking is the fire suppression system, like that fire should have gone out before they panned away, and it didn't. And I kept wondering what was happening there. Nick, you had an interesting comment about what you think the Outlaws are going to have to try to do since that happened a little bit ago off the air.
Yeah, I mean, basically just I got to see probably an unwanted clip at this point, being a racer. But there was a clip on YouTube this morning that got to show somebody from the fan side, so they actually cued in on everything that was happening. So during the impact of the crash, the fire suppression bottle actually broke off the car and it ruptured itself into going off before the actual car landed, and then the actual engulfed fire that everybody was able to see on the broadcast on Dirt Vision. But like every event or anything that happens with racing, we learn from it. So I think that last night's crash, they're going to say, okay, hey, these brackets or where these things are mandated to be mounted, it may be in an unwanted place or whatever in the car, but they're definitely going to have to do something to make it a little bit safer that can hold that kind of an impact, especially large racetracks like Knoxville. They carry a lot of speed, and and when you hit those walls at those speeds, the impact of the materials and stuff that they're using. So
what does that make you think of in other, maybe before the fire suppression system? What was going on, and how did they decide to put that fire suppression system in place? Like, what was the logic going up to that? Do you know?
I think last year there was a couple races out in California where guys had caught fire and stuff, and you basically put yourself in a situation where you rely on your safety equipment. You rely on the racetrack to have the proper fire suppression. You put your life or your quality of life after that in somebody else's hands.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think obviously everybody wants to walk away and they want to go unscathed from any kind of accident, and I think that's why the Outlaws implement, like, hey, we have the safety device, we have the resources. And these suppression systems are like $500 to $1,000, so it's nothing to these teams that race for, most, yeah. So I mean, for the cost of what they cost, I mean, I could see why they say, hey, this isn't going to be a cost-effective, implemented safety rule. So
well, it's a start, but maybe you can engineer them differently going forward. The thing that struck me is that not having seen one of those before was your heart goes out to the other drivers trying to help the driver get out, but they're in there and jumping right back out because it's so hot, so and perhaps are getting involved with the EMTs, right? You need the safety people and the medics to be able to get in there. So just process wise, I don't know, I would think you wouldn't want your other drivers jumping in there to try to help, even though you totally understand that.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, you two have, been on a track when there's been a nasty accident, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head where we had a fire that was that bad, like out at Eagle, that you really would have thought someone would have jumped out of the car. I mean, I remember a couple of times after a wreck, one of the guys would jump out, but it was to throw fists, not necessarily to, try to help. It was to try to, but from that standpoint, what the driver community, and it's not just the touring series. I get it. Those guys are on the road, but you guys race against each other every week. I mean, you all drive the same distance to the track that you do every week, but you're racing against the same guys. There's guys that you don't get along with very well. There's guys that you give the shirt off your back. You make sure you hit the brake and not try to race them for a spot just because. Talk about those relationships and how tough it is to decide in the heat of the moment. What do I do here?
Sit back and watch.
Yeah.
It's more of a it's more of an instinct, I think, than it is, well, should I do this? I mean, it's like racing. I mean, somebody asks you, well, how do you go this fast, or how do you go around a corner? You have to think about it because you don't think about it. You just, reflexes and I think that's the same thing. Those guys that came to his, rescue didn't even think about it. I'll guarantee you it was a reflex, and it's like, he's hurt. We got to get to him. And, there's, we'll pay the consequences. It, better, just same as Wolfgang when he was down there, who was at the scene, it was the racers that got burned. Donnie Crawford, when, the girl was, engulfed. I mean, it was him that was in the car. I mean, with her getting, her out. And I say it's something you don't have to think about. And I don't care if it was, somebody you race against every weekend, somebody you don't know, somebody that's your best friend, or somebody you don't like. It's you're going to dig in there and do whatever you have to do.
Absolutely. I know from the standpoint, kind of this segment, I want to make sure we focus on Eagle Chassis. You kind of set up where we're at. Your race shop has now become your business shop. So what is the next steps now for Eagle Motorsports LLC and Eagle Chassis? Obviously get the shop organized. You have some frames you need to repair. You have some orders. What would be a good way for racers that want to know more about Eagle, possibly looking to get in a new chassis? How do they get a hold of you?
Like I say, we're just kind of getting set up. I have done some repairs. I'm still going to continue on with the Chinese cars, which we can't, call them Helix. So I'm going to come up with another alternative name, but it'll still be basically the same car. When I was at Eagle at EMI, I think I built 165 of them. So, excuse me. There's not going to be a whole lot that is going to change as far as car wise. I still have the same jigs, fixtures, still going to put the same quality in each and every car. I've been in contact with some, people that, have done business, previously with the help from Tyler Perry. And, we're doing a few mini sprints for a guy out in California by the name of Scott Kaufman, which is another ingenuity. He's making a device called the Chasma, which is another safety device. It's got foam pucks along with your weight of your body, and they go underneath the seat. They're going to try to start implementing some stuff through NASCAR, and that's why he's making a move from Visalia, California to Morrisville, and trying to help with the safety aspects of it. So and we're working on a few things also, or whatever, to try to make the car a little bit safer. One of the biggest things that I'd seen in the 2.5 years I was in is the A-frames of the cars, and the A-frames are probably one of the most important things, because that's where your seat sits. That's where your seat belts are, positioned. And each car that we build has a build sheet, and the driver owner puts those locations on what he wants, where, And sometimes not everybody knows exactly where they need to be, or maybe another person gets in that car. Well, that seatbelt position should be, a minimum of 4 inches below, where your shoulder blades are sitting. So it has a tendency to pull you down in the car rather than have that bar, above it, and it's not holding you at all in the car. So, we're working on some stuff with carbon fiber and some aluminum where they're adjustable. Not to say we're the first ones with the adjustable deal, but just trying to improve on things.
So I mentioned to you off air that I'm a technical person. I like to understand, what if I'm buying a chassis or selecting my chassis builder, what makes you all different from the others and special? You mentioned quality. What does that mean to you? I'm going to ask Nick as your marketing guy, right? How he looks at that too. So
it's chassis wise. We put a chassis on, my Jig, and you can put a Snay, you can put a J&J, you can put a Maxim. There's not a whole lot of difference between car wise. It's kind of like a wheel. You can change a little bit on the appearance in this, but it's still round.
Mm-hmm.
It still rolls. You're looking for making things as light as you can for reciprocating weight, but also the safety aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is, and I wanted to, chime in a little bit when we were talking earlier about, the weight wise, as far as the suppressant bottles. I can almost guarantee you every single one of those suppressant bottles are held on with a lightened aluminum bracket. And when you're running 150 mile an hour and go from 150 to 0, that type of thing is not going to stay attached. I don't understand why it's not going to make the racing any better if we implement 100 or 1,550 pound weight rule versus a 1,425 pound rule. The same guys are going to be consistently fast. It is going to make the racing a little bit cheaper. So that's one of my things. I'm not a World of Outlaw racer, but I don't want to see anybody get killed over, 3 grams. When Johnny Herrera was based out of Lincoln with Cormac, I seen a ton of it or whatever. They're over there through the off season weighing every single piece with a gram scale. And at the end of their deal, they knocked off 25 pounds, but they had to weigh everything in grams. And
That's
it's
crazy.
like, where would you think, man, I can take 25. They were cutting spark plug wires to exact lengths, and you don't think about it, but it's like, but did that really make that racing any better? But, yes, it did. No, it didn't. But if everybody does it, it's all going to be the exact same. If you're at 1,500, 1,600, or 1,000 pounds,
Yeah, that's the bottom. Just make it as even playing field as you can, but as safe as you can as well. We'll put a bow on this rendition of the finish line when we come back on 93.7 The Ticket.
The Butchery by Venue is Lincoln's premier specialty grocers. Take the quality of Venue home with you with our hand-cut steaks, handcrafted burgers, and locally sourced offerings. Browse our wide selection of specialty products designed to enhance your dining experiences with cheese, spices, sauces, and more. We also have an exclusive collection of liquors, whiskeys, and bourbons at prices you're sure to love. Stop in to the Butchery by Venue today, located in our Venue at Home storefront at 70th and Pioneers, just 2 doors down from Venue Restaurant and Lounge.
You don't think about your roof very often, but you should never take it for granted. Roofing Service Company takes every measure to provide you with the highest quality roofing solution. Whether it's a new roof installation, roof repair, or a re-roofing project, their overall goal is to provide you with a pleasant experience and a long-lasting roof. If you have a need for siding or gutters, they're your place too. Visit roofingservicecompany.com for more info today.
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit TechStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Adoption of teens from foster care is a topic not enough people know about, and we're here to change that. I'm April Dinwiddie, host of the new podcast, Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Each episode brings you compelling real-life adoption stories told by the families that live them with commentary from experts. Visit adoptuskids.org/podcast or subscribe to Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families and the Ad Council.
Block with Strick and Austin.
I'm going to hit you with the bad news first. The bad news is that this Omaha team signed the enemy. Sydney Hilly, the national champion setter for Wisconsin, was the second player signed by the pro club team in Omaha. Sydney Hilly is very good.
She's fantastic.
But she's the enemy.
Dang it.
She's the enemy.
What are we doing?
Weekdays from 2 to 4 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket.
Okay. Playing 93.7 The Ticket.
Turn down the lights.
Dimming the lights.
Alexa, order a pizza. The big one. All the toppings.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Alexa.
That's a lot of pizza for just one man.
Alexa, just do it. Stop judging me, just do it.
As you wish.
Thanks, Alexa. You're my best friend.
If you're interested in installing solar panels in Nebraska, there's a name you need to know. Solar by Alpine Electric is based out of Lincoln, and you can be sure your project will be handled with care and detail because Rick, the owner of Solar by Alpine Electric, will be involved in the entire process from start to finish. We're an REC Solar certified pro installer and handle jobs in Lincoln and the surrounding area. Let us show you real-time results in your area. Call Rick today at 402-440-4371. Solar by Alpine Electric.
The weather is hot, the kids are out of school, and you're on your way to the lake and summer road trips. Are you getting to your vacation spot comfortable, or is your car? Mullen Motors Lot is full of great vehicles to take home so you don't have to worry about your current car barely surviving another road trip. Come check out their lot just north of 48th and Layton and find your next ride for summer road trips and beyond. Mullen Motors.
No tag-ons, just quality vehicles. Mullen Motors.
Back to the finish line with Mike Melby on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
And welcome back to the finish line here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. I'm Mike Melby. Rebecca Pearson to my right, Mike Boston, and Nick Bryan in studio with us. Mike, the new owner of Eagle Chassis. Mike, I believe I'm going to take a wild shot in the dark. I don't know this. Trust me, it's just a guess. You started racing, and I'm going to say 1974.
Very good guess.
And how old were you, Mike?
I was 11.
Okay.
So what did you start racing? Was it dirt bikes?
Yeah, my parents owned a motorcycle shop, and long story short, my mom wanted me to race. My dad didn't, so mom won out.
Really?
My mom won out, of course, and my very first bike race in '74, I won, and a lot of times I just think back and wonder what if I'd have got my butt kicked, or but I've had a successful career. Like they say, all good thing must come to an end, or whatever. Next year in 24 will be my last year racing or whatever. And the reason why I wanted to do that is it'll be 50 years. So I say it'll be pretty special.
All right.
Yeah, it is. That's insane.
Why
You're
Mom?
11 years old to 61.
And Mom was the champion, which
and
is
Mom's
unusual.
The champion. That's fantastic.
Why was Mom the champion? Did she grow up around it?
No, actually, she's just an open-minded person.
Open-minded,
And
okay.
yeah. And I don't know what Dad's problem was, but it's like the problem now is Dad is more obsessed with racing than, I was or ever would be. And like I say, he's been a great influence, and it's too bad where he's got Alzheimer's or whatever, and he's in assisted living, and but it does, he still remembers those times though.
Yeah. Nick, third generation?
Yep. Mine actually started with Mom too.
Really?
Yep.
All right.
No, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, Grandpa, and then my mom.
Well, I'd say
And then-
grandpa, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So tell me a little bit about your grandpa. I mean, I know, but how many years did he race?
Oh man, he probably raced over 6 decades.
That's I was going to say, because he was racing and had been racing for almost 20 years, I think, when I started watching.
Yeah, I mean, he raced all the way from Capitol Beach up to, I think, actually the first year I started racing, he outleved my sprint car.
And Grandpa's last name is Brian, just for me.
Sadors.
Oh, okay.
Frank Sadors. Yep.
For those, yep. Okay, great.
Yeah, and then Rhonda, right? Raced, and then you jumped behind the wheel.
Oh, actually, well, yeah. I mean, Mom and Dad met. Dad was a stock car driver at Midwest Speedway. My mom was a sprint car driver.
Yep.
Talking about like the crash at Knoxville and stuff. She actually quit on the spot one night watching a guy catch fire. So, the car was sitting there, and Dad was dating Mom, and Grandpa was like, "Hey, I'm either going to sell this thing or somebody's going to drive it." And Mom and Dad had a solid relationship, so Dad hopped in the wheel of the sprint car for Grandpa. And 15 years later, after they had me, Dad had to have open heart surgery and put him behind the 8 ball. And he's like, "Hey," he goes, "it's either we sell this thing or you start getting serious about racing." So Mom and Dad took me out to play day, and I remember going out to practice that night and hopping in the car, never having any experience, not even a goat kart or anything like that. So you definitely gain the respect of these guys that do it week in and week out. And I actually came in after hot laps, and I told Dad, I mean, this thing scared the crap out of me. And he's like, Mom, she come up to me and she goes, "Hey, you need to go out there and give it one more try." So if it wouldn't have been for Mom to come out there, I wouldn't even been sitting here today.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Way to go, moms.
I know. I like that. And we've talked about having some female racers on, which we're going to do here in the future. I'd love to know what you guys love about racing, right? So in the 30 seconds we got, yeah. What? 30 seconds each. What do you love about racing?
The camaraderie of, excuse me, the camaraderie of all the racers themselves. Like you said earlier, I mean, you could go over and borrow a car, or I've had jacked over, racing for a point championship myself, and say, "Hey, your car broke, you jump into mine." And just things like that. It doesn't, especially in the Midwest, it just doesn't get any better than a camaraderie.
Yeah, I mean, like, the relationships like you get from other people, it's like another secondary family, actually me and Mike actually started just based off of 305 racing. He wanted to go out and actually compete at 305s at Eagle, and I had actually had a car and he didn't yet. So that's kind of why we're here today.
Nice. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. Ricky Simmons, get your happy on, coming up with Steve Taylor next, right here on 93.7 The Ticket.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2000. At 4 a.m, my phone rang.